What's going on, guys? John here from John's Fishing Channel. Thanks for tuning in. Back up in northern Wisconsin, it's an overcast, cloudy day. It's about 60-65 degrees, but it's been warm the last few days, and it's supposed to rain tomorrow and be cloudy, so I think the fish will actually be biting today. But I'm fishing with my two favorite dogs, Thor and Kenobi, the fishing dogs. And I'm going to be throwing rubber worm as well as spinner baits today. So let's get to it, and hopefully we catch a couple big fish today. Alright, so I've been up here fishing for a few weeks. The bass have, the largemouth bass anyways, I think the smallmouth are still spawning. The largemouth bass have moved off of their beds and into the weedy drop-off areas. So I'll be fishing around these islands today using a spinnerbait to start out with for about the first 15 minutes. If I don't get any bites or see any fish, we'll switch to a rubber worm and we'll go from there, and we'll also try a couple rapalas. And some topwater baits if we see them on the topwater. But I did just see a loon around here, so we'll see how that works out. Usually I don't like to fish around where the loons are. I rigged up all my reels and rods with new line today, so hopefully I won't have any line issues or anything like that. I've been fishing pretty hard for about a week and a half. The loon is right there in front of me. And I think that, you know, kind of the line got a little mucked up. Alright, so we're rolling up to the second island. Having some major issues with the GoPro today. I don't know why. It just doesn't want to work for me or something, but this is a really nice drop off right in front of me. It goes from about 2 feet all the way out to 12 feet in just the short distance in front of me. So there should be a bass or two sitting on this ledge somewhere. Wow, that was really close to the boat. As you can see, these loons are not that shy. And usually they don't come this close to the boat, but they're absolutely destroying my fishing ground, I think. So I'm gonna motor around to the other side of the island here, and hopefully they won't follow me. Alrighty, so we got our first fish on the spinnerbait. I just picked it up right on this grassy point. It extends all the way out right into the front of the boat. And this guy grabbed it about halfway back. Oh, yeah, I just hooked myself. Not very big. He's got a little damage on the top of his fin there, but have fun, buddy. Alright, just picked up another second fish in the exact same spot. Smaller than the first one. Got attitude though, I'll give him that. You are gonna be a bad mofo someday, fish. So my guess is there's probably just a school of smaller bass hanging around this point. There's just a really nice drop off about 20 feet in front of the boat here, and that's where I'm actually picking these fish up. Working the lure nice and slow, letting it kind of sink down a little bit, like right there. Oh yeah, this one's a little bit nicer. It's not that, I mean, nice, but a little nicer. It's got a lot of spunk, I'll give him that. Oh, that's not a bad one. Cool. I wonder those loons are hanging out here. There's just food everywhere. I've never caught a loon or any type of bird with a fishing line or lure, but it does happen. My stepmom one time actually was fly fishing in Montana on her back cast. She hooked, or either her line went around, I'm not quite sure how it worked out, went around like a small sparrow or finch, and they ended up unhooking it and taking the line off of it, and it lived and flew away. But there's the loon. I don't know if he's going to do his little dance. He looks like he might pop out of the water a little bit. There's cool birds. The common loon. Google them. It's funny because any like movie scene you ever see where they're in the woods at night in a forest, swamp scene, anything like that, you always hear a loon call, like a woo woo, and it's just like a trademark you're in the woods noise, and it makes you feel very at home in the North Woods. Oh man, that's hilarious. The one, there's another loon, I would say maybe 300, 400, 500 feet across the lake that way on the other side of this island. And he's going absolutely crazy doing his water dance. I don't know if there's two males over there, or a male and a female, but he's like just going around in circles on his back feet with his wings up in the lake, and then go about 20 miles an hour across the top of the water. It's pretty fast. It'd be cool if we could get over there and actually see it. That was instantaneous, and just a tiny, tiny little bass. But he came out of nowhere, sideways, upside down to hit this lure, and I just saw his shiny belly. It's not tiny, but it's pretty small. Under a pound. 10 inches. Hey loons, I was just fishing there. Thanks for waiting until I went through and got a few casts in. You go ahead and do your dance if you want. It'd be pretty neat. Fishing a little structure here. It's kind of like a point, that underwater flat spot that jets all the way out off this island. Right out in front of me where this log is, and then it drops off. So this log usually tends to be kind of a hot spot for bass, because they like, you know, they like structure near a little bit more deeper water, while they have that shallow water, so they can just sit there and kind of ambush smaller fish that don't have a chance. But traditionally I would be throwing a rubber worm up underneath this log. I'm trying to catch a little bit bigger fish today. I have no doubt in my mind I could put a rubber worm on and probably catch 30, 40 bass, no problem. But I'm looking for a bass that are above 3 to 5 pounds today, which if I caught one that was 5 pounds, it would be absolutely amazing. I'm not anticipating it. But I could get a couple 3-4 pounders on this spinnerbait. And that's really what I'm looking for today, is just a little bit bigger fish. Bam, there's one. I don't think it's that big, but he was right where he should have been. Turn my drag up just a little bit. Oh, that's a nice one, but it's, it's not. Well, that's a little bit nicer. Oh, that's a nice one. Oh, that's a hog. Holy schmucks. That's kind of what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm looking for. That's maybe a 3-pound fish. I have my scale weigher. Oopsies. Put him on the scale. 2.2. Well, I don't know. That looks like a real big 2-pounder, doesn't it? But that's a good fish. And I don't know if you are going to be able to see these weeds right in front of me, but I forgot that there's like a little channel that dips down right here where it's about 6 feet, and it's 2 feet on either side with nothing but weeds and rocks. So this traditionally tends to be a fantastic place. There's a giant bass right down there. I'm looking right at him. Wow. Wow. Well, I'd like to catch that one. But he's right in that drop off where he should be, in about 3-4 feet of water, right where it drops off from. About a foot of weeds, kind of drops straight down, and he is sitting right there. There's one. It's amazing too that these loons, they roll through these areas that they swim underwater through like 6 inches of water, and you can't even tell that they're there. It's very impressive to me. You got a lot of fight to you for not being very big. One of my favorite things about spinnerbaits, other than the size and the amount of fish you catch, is it's a single hook setup. So you can really, you can grab the fish. You don't have to worry about hooking yourself in the finger or anything like that. There isn't 6 hooks, because you got 2 treble hooks on there, or 1 set of treble hooks. But they're just fantastic. And like I said, the biggest fish I've ever seen caught in my life, which was like a 6.5, 7-pound largemouth, was at Boy Scouts camp. And this little Asian kid caught it on a spinnerbait that was bright green. And I just remember being so jealous. I went out and I fished. I was at Boy Scout camp, I think, for 10 days. I fished every single day, 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day in my free time. And I caught a lot of bass, but nothing over 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds. And it was just like, to see that fish come out of a tiny little lake, no bigger than, I don't know, 30, 40 acres maybe, really I thought was amazing. And that's part of the reason I probably love fishing so much, is that you never know what you're gonna catch on the next cast. You could catch a world record fish, and that's why we do it. The unknown. You know, one of my favorite things about spinnerbaits, one of my other favorite things, I keep saying my favorite things about them, these are like my top 5 favorite things about spinnerbaits, I guess, is you can see the blade in the water. You know, it reflects really well, it moves, it's bright, it's visible, it's easy to see, even a really long ways away. You know, like I can see it right now if I was fishing it pretty fast near the surface, but it comes into view about 20 to 30 feet from the boat, and if a bass comes and grabs that, you'll see it just shoot sideways, because it's so visible, it's so vibrant underwater. Like, I mean, I can clearly see it right now. And if a bass takes that and shoots across sideways, it's neat to see just kind of that black shadowy figure come out of nowhere and take your bait. It's pretty shallow up in here, but you never know where the big fish sit. I've seen gigantic muskies, I mean over 50 inches, sitting in less than 1 foot of water, kind of in the weeds. So you kind of always just want to fish everywhere you can cast. And sometimes you'll throw the same cast 9-10 times in a row, and finally your bait will have triggered that fish to bite. So I could fish all over this area for the next 20 minutes. You know, neither the fish is going to move into the area, or it's just finally going to want to bite my lure because it doesn't like it, or it's hungry, or something's activated its instincts to just go ahead and go out and eat that bait in front of it. That's hilarious. I was just talking about, you know, you can't really count out where the fish are going to be, and I was looking off this side of the boat where I was fishing, and I said it was a foot of water with weeds, and a school of bass actually just rolled through right in front of me. There was about 5 of them. They weren't very big, but you know, it's just kind of cool to see them moving in and out of areas, especially when the water is this clear and this shallow. Alright, we got another little fish on. Trying to throw the lure. I'm using a little bit bigger rod today too, so these littler, I mean the medium-sized ones, which I would say this is small medium, a little bigger than the small ones, but you know, they just don't feel quite as big when you're using a heavier rod with a heavier line. But I have a feeling that's probably a school of bass back in here somewhere, so maybe I can catch 1 or 2 right here. This lake's not big enough for the 3 of us, says 2 of the loons that swam away from you. Oh, those could be the same loons. They really do get around. They can swim, I mean, I think up to a 1/4 mile underwater, which is a really, really, really long ways. There we go. Bam! Pulled that fish right as I came over the top of that drop off on the weeds. A little nicer. They're definitely biting today. There we go, under 2 pounds, nice fish. Alright, so I'm just kind of wrapping up fishing around the second island here. And I came up to the point of the island, and of course we all know bass love points. And I picked up another little fish. Beautiful though. Alright, so I've just spent about the last hour and 30 minutes, I would say, fishing around the 2 islands here. Got about a dozen fish, missed about 4 or 5 others, missed a real nice one, which is always disappointing. I'm going to go ahead and pull the motor up here and head on over to another side of the lake. My phone's going off. Alright, so I threw 1 more cast up in there and hooked something. Looks bigger than it is. Oh god, the structure down here is just so nice though. These little fish, I don't know what it is, they must be really active today because they are really pulling far and hard on the line. He's kind of down in the weeds, but man, these fish got a lot of spunk. Alright, 1 more cast and I'm moving. So, switched over to a rubber worm. Come on, don't throw the hook. Caught my first fish right off the end of the weeds here. It's a little bit nicer. It's not, you know, too big, but it's bigger than the littler ones that I've been catching today. Trying to keep him. Ow. On the line. There we go. Under 2 pounds, but just a good fish. Right at the end of the weeds out in front of me where he should have been. So last night I was fishing, and this is a relatively small lake, and this guy comes flying across the lake in his giant bass boat, which is way too big for this lake, and he pulls up, I don't know, maybe 50 feet from me, and he puts down his trolling motor and he starts coming down the shore right at me in the exact location where I'm fishing, and he ended up cutting in front of me, and he kept going. And let me tell you what, that's just horrible, really just bad fishing etiquette. You know, you just don't do that to other people when they're fishing, especially when you're the only 2 people on a little lake like this. Like, go as far away as you can to the other side of the lake, you know, to not disturb the other person. It's just, you know, it's just being respectful, proper fishing etiquette. But some people don't have that. I don't know if it's something they just never learned or something that they really don't care about, but let me tell you what, it just really cheeses me off when somebody does something like that. Well, I've noticed a significant drop in temperature. It's gone from about 66, 67 degrees down to about 63 to 62. I don't know if that's impacted the way the fish are biting or not, but Nikki's on her way up here, her dad's on her way up here. I'm gonna fish just a little bit longer down around this corner, and then I'll probably be heading in a little bit. All right, got another fish. Of course, there's a fallen tree with a lot of branches hanging off of it, and that is just prime territory for largemouth bass. You know, they like to hang out around and in structure like that, such as the sticks. So I just picked them up right off the end of that down tree over there, and I would imagine there's probably 4 or 5 bass sitting down there that I could catch. Not too shabby, not the biggest, not the littlest one that I've caught today, so. Another 2.5 pounds. Or likes to lick the fish, that cracks me up. It's a good one. Throw another one cast up in there. You know, when there's a big school of bass around structure like this, the bites are almost instantaneous when you get your lure out there. So if they're there and they're feeding, you know, it tends to be, you tend to catch them usually when your lure or bait makes that first initial drop. See, like right there, bam, got him. Not very big, but he was right where he was supposed to be. Good bass. Let's get the pliers for this one. His mouth isn't quite big enough for me to get my fingers in there and get this one, so get it out with the pliers. There we go. There we go, Thor. All right, well, here's, oh, he just let go, but he was right on the edge of that weed line. Says you're extruding about 6 feet from the shore. But I threw it out there, it landed right next to the weeds, sunk down to the bottom, and I got a bite. It's the way it's supposed to be. All right, this was actually, I thought maybe that this was a smaller fish that was holding on to the tail of the worm, but I actually hooked him, and he pretty much just swam right at the boat. Just like I had predicted. Throw the spinnerbait up in the weeds and get a bite. Dang it, that wasn't that nice of a fish, but he did throw the lure out. Oh, that was neat. hooked a fish, but I threw it right up to the edge of the lily pads you see in front of it. Oh, he just got off, son of a biscuit. But he actually came shooting out from underneath the weeds and grabbed the lure right as it was sinking, and I kind of saw the whole thing go down. Alright guys, well I had a fantastic time fishing out here like I always do. Caught a lot of fish. It's warming up. The season is definitely changing from late spring to early summer. It's really warm out. The humidity is up, the pressure's up, and the fish were biting great today, but hopefully I'll catch a few more big ones before I head back to Minnesota in a couple days. But as always, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, favorite this video, and we'll see you next time with more fishing from me, John, from John's Fishing Channel.